Today's podcast is brought to you by Audible. Head over to audibletrial.com/jumbled and get your free 30-day trial and a free audiobook. They've got over 180,000 titles to choose from for your iPhone, Android, Kindle, or MP3 player. Hey, what do you guys think of my new low voice? What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to Jumbled, your favorite podcast about nothing. I'm Zach. I know it's been so long. This is legitimately the longest time between episodes that we've ever gone. There've just been some weird happenings. I had some vocal issues that I'm still sort of getting over, sort of on the back end of that. And then last week I straight up pinched a nerve in my neck, so I could not do anything without wincing in pain and crying out in agony. And nobody, and I repeat, nobody wants to hear that on a podcast. As a matter of fact, my neck is still sort of jacked up, but it's good enough to where I have some mobility to be able to talk. Either way, last week Jonny did record an episode that I thought I would release. I wanted to release this last week, but like I said, since I'm editing this thing and I just was not up to the task, it's getting released now. So I do apologize about all the delay in between the episodes and whatnot. But hey, things come up. We are not getting paid for this stuff. So you get what you get. You don't throw a fit. But we hope that you guys aren't too upset with us. Thank you so much for sticking with us through it and having a little bit of patience with us. This one is with our good buddy Greg. I have no idea. I've not listened to this audio at all. Have no idea what's discussed. Have no idea if it goes off the rails, but here's hoping, right? Hope you guys enjoyed this one. We will see you guys next week for a brand new episode. Oh, by the way, Jonny, feel better, bud. Jonny said he has salmonella, and I think it's because he's blowing chickens on the side, but we'll talk about that next week. Hope you guys enjoy this episode. And thanks again for sticking around, and we will see you guys next week for another episode of Jumbled. But you know what? Jonny and Greg, take it away, please.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome to Jumbled, your favorite podcast about nothing. I'm Jonny, and I fired Zach, and I've replaced him with our dear friend Greg. Just kidding. Zach's not fired, but he is sick and doesn't have a voice, which would make recording a podcast quite difficult.
I am the new voice of Zach.
That is right. Greg has come back to, one, save the day and help me record. But two, I'm now having a small panic attack because Audacity wasn't recording. There it is. Never mind. It's recording. That we get to chat about some more fun things because I had a great time chatting with you a couple months ago when you were on. We talked about your business, Fretable, and got into some scary things about AI, which I'm pleased to say the robot revolution has not started to date, as far as I know.
As we predicted, Jim.
As we predicted, that's right.
As we predicted it would not happen.
We are now Jumbled Stradamus.
Not in our lifetime.
Is that it? Was that what we can call ourselves?
Yes. That was the guy that predicted Doomsday, right?
Yeah, Nostradamus, but we're now Jumbledamus? I don't know.
Nostradamus? Do you think he had a big nose? Probably.
I think he did. But I don't even know when he was alive, to be honest. So who knows what he really looked like? It's probably just a bunch of people doing some shitty drawings of him. They're like, fuck this guy, he's right all the time. Make him look stupid.
You think back in the day, because really the only way this was predating pictures, right?
Mm-hmm.
You couldn't just bring out a smartphone or even old school analog picture.
Man, do you remember what it was like to not have a camera attached to your hip at all times?
No. No, I don't. But like that's how we grew up, right?
I remember.
That's totally how we grew up.
I remember my first cell phone in grade 9, and it was that classic Nokia brick that was just like
I had that too.
Green screen. And then I remember when flip phones became a really cool thing, and I do want to talk to you about the next evolution of flip phones. But I remember our friend Mike, got a colored screen flip phone, and that was just like mind blowing. And you could take pictures, and I think the camera was like 1 megabyte or something. Megapixel, megapixel. Yeah, megapixel. Shows what I know. And that was just like fucking mind blowing. And I remember him explaining to me what text messages were, and I was so confused. I was like, wait, what? Your phone?
Do you remember text messages that came in parts?
Yes, because they were too long.
Yeah,
it'd be like
it was
one
like
of three.
one of three.
I do honestly miss T9, and I'm willing to bet that I can still type better with T9 than I can on a full iPhone keyboard because of my fat fucking thumbs.
Are you for real? Yeah, you actually think you could?
I think that has just been beaten into my brain, my very simple, primitive brain, that muscle memory would come back in relatively quickly.
Hey, you know how Google every April they do their April Fool's Day prank where they do a full fake product release? Mm-hmm. You remember the one on Morse code?
Oh yeah.
Where it was like we've simplified everything completely. Now it's just a dot and a dash.
Yeah.
It's revolutionary and not at the same time.
I love that.
And there's just people just mashing dot and dash to try and get through everything. So T9 is obviously like an evolution of shitty Morse code, right?
Whoa. Why did you still say
have
shitty
to,
Morse code? What's shitty about Morse code?
Well, it was good for the time, but it's it takes so much effort to actually convey information.
That's true. That is fair.
Like in order to do like what's the most for a character? Like four different presses.
I think so.
And in order to do it, so there's the short press, the dot, and then the dash where you actually have to hold down, right? Mm-hmm. So you're actually spending time conveying that information by holding it down and pressing.
All right, Greg,
longer.
It sucks. You're right. Okay.
It does suck. So T9 still sucks because you have to press the max is 3.
No. So
number?
that's ABC text. T9 was the first predictive text. So you didn't have to say. So you know like your one button is A, B, and C, and traditionally you'd have to be like, if I want to C, I have to push 1, 1, 1.
Yeah.
T9 would be predictive text. So if I was spelling, I don't know why the first word that came to me was cunt, but you could just go 1.
So it'd be 3.
No, you'd push 1.
Was that really T9 though?
Yeah. I mean, that was the basis of T9. It was like predictive fast text. It was the.
But I think the predictive nature of T9 came later. Oh no, you're right. T9 is a predictive text technology.
Who knows more than the technology genius? I now own your title.
And 9 has 4 letters as W,
X, Y,
wait.
W, X, Y, and Z. Yeah, it would be 4 because they're like the least common, 4. Right?
Yeah, that was a really pixelated picture right there.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, you're right. Yeah, so I thought that T9 was like pressing for C. You have to press it 3 times. Okay, So that's what I thought that T9 was.
See, here's the difference.
But you learn something new every day.
Of me being 2 years your senior,
there's
a big evolution jump there.
There is
in the world of cell phones.
Yeah, it really was. Like I remember I had a Nokia. Actually, the first run-in I had with the cell phone was our friend Anto. His dad had a cell phone, and it was one of those like big brick gray things. Like even
the gray one.
Nokia.
Oh, my dad
like
had
the gray one,
big black foldy one that like the cover was for the keypad, and it was just like a plastic sleeve. It was such garbage.
Yeah,
and he used to wear it on his belt.
Amazing.
Oh my god, it was what a sight to see.
And so there's one that predates that,
yeah,
where it had a shoulder strap, like very reminiscent. You know when you watch World War II videos and then they call in the airstrike,
like
and they just have this big giant, just a brick of a phone.
Oh my god!
We need air support.
Oh,
that's what.
So inconvenient to carry. You need a fucking backpack to carry your phone.
Yeah.
Isn't it kind of weird though that we went from giant phones and then the fad was, can we get these things as small as fucking possible?
Yeah.
And now there's iPhone 11 Pro or Plus or whatever the fuck they're called now, and they're almost the same size, just thinner and nicer. But
yeah, well, I think it's a byproduct of how we consume material and media now. So think about like back in the day, it was like you're just consuming text, right? And it was a black and white screen, just pixels, right? You're not really. I think that they did have maybe like Netscape or something on the older phones, but you weren't really
doing anything.
You weren't consuming video content, right? Like you weren't.
That's true. Yeah.
You weren't consuming pictures, so that stuff really lends itself to like large megapixels and then larger screens, right? Because who wants to watch a YouTube video or any sort of video on a small screen, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it got smaller and smaller and smaller because everyone was consuming text, and you don't really need a lot of screen real estate to read text, right?
That's
like
fair.
you just scroll. And then we started getting into videos, and then everything got bigger and bigger.
You know what happened is when porn became an online thing, and you realize you could get porn on your screen, and then you're just like, I need a bigger screen for porn.
Yeah. No, that's like, you'd be surprised how much the porn industry actually changes just technology.
We sound like you know something about this, so do you want to talk about that?
Well, I don't really have much to say. Like so on the second floor in my office building is where Giphy Cat or Jiffy Cat, however you choose to pronounce it. So their headquarters are in my building, and I know the CEO Dan, and it's really interesting talking to him about kind of their company overhead, because it's all server costs, right? And it's all caching and stuff like that. So Giphy Cat is kind of like most of the GIFs that you see on Reddit are all hosted on Giphy Cat. So they kind of found out over the years that they are just predominantly porn. They're all pornography. That's what all their GIFs are. And it's really interesting listening to their CEO talk.
Man,
and
Giphy
sort
Cat
of like,
is an Edmonton company? That's cool.
Yeah, it is really cool. It's really interesting kind of looking at his evolution about where he spends his time. And now he's at like pornography conferences and trade shows and stuff like that, just to learn more about the industry. Like, what a badass job. You're the CEO of a giant scaling media company, and you just go to pornography trade shows all day. That's crazy.
He's got a hard life. He's probably so desensitized.
A hard life.
Think of how much... Yeah, unintended pun. Good job, John. Imagine how desensitized you get to. You know, I remember like being a kid and the internet dial up, and I think we maybe talked about this before, but you'd like Google boobs. Not even Google at that time. I don't even remember maybe Ask Jeeves, or maybe Yahoo was a thing. I don't know. You just try and find a picture of boobs, and it'd be the most pixelated thing, and you'd be so fucking happy. And now,
hey John, I remember typing 8008 on my calculator and getting a boner.
And now, you know, a handful of years later, 20 years later, the search history gets real dark.
It's great. So now, with the kind of the pressure on tech media giants to kind of keep track of what data they're storing about you as you're kind of using their free technologies. And I put free in scare quotes because, you know, it's not really free. They're kind of looking at our data, right?
Yeah, you're the product, right? If it's free, you're the product.
Exactly. Yeah, for sure. But it's cool that now with especially all the GDPR laws, which are basically like the European privacy laws, have kind of, they're very, very stringent and have kind of forcing companies to let you know as a consumer like what they have on you, right? So you can actually go do a dump of your Google data and see like,
oh my god,
yeah, it's
wait,
yeah.
How do they know? Like, can I look up anyone's Google data?
No, your Google data. So you sign into your Google account and you can look at like
so it's just
all the data
Google
that they have on you.
Okay,
Yeah. So you can actually look that stuff up, which is I haven't done it yet because
you don't want to know.
Who knows?
I don't
want to know
so
because I go down a lot of YouTube rabbit holes, John.
That's fair. I have a couple Google accounts. Like I have the Jumbled Google, and I have
the good boy Johnny account and the naughty boy Johnny account.
But I'm not typically signed into any of my Google accounts for that reason. That I just want to be creepy anonymously, you know?
So you don't get pure anonymity unless you're using Tor, right? Unless you're using the Onion router, you have an IP address that is relatively static. Like it is dynamic in that your ISP reassigns your IP address every like month or something like that. But typically, people can figure out that it's at least like your router, right? So they don't know who within your local area network is the cause of like that search query, unless you're like signed into an account. Or you have cookies on that specific computer with that MAC address. But they can figure it out. They can figure it out. So the only way you get pure anonymity is like the Onion router or doing some sort of like VPN proxy.
I'm kind of intrigued, but also terrified, but maybe more intrigued. I don't know.
Hey, have you been on the deep web before?
No, I don't even know how to get. How do you get deeper than the YouTube rabbit hole? I am so weirdly old in that sense. Like in my office, there's a few older ladies, and whenever they have technology issues, they're like, "Hey, can you come look at this?" I'm like, no. Like I get that I'm in my 30s and you're like 50 and you think that I should naturally know everything about this computer, but man, I Google. That's probably my most use for Google is why the fuck is my computer doing this? My current challenge, maybe you'll know an answer to this, which I did discover today, I think is a Google Chrome thing, is that I get notifications from this thing called Gear Junkie all the time, and it is fucking driving me crazy. And then today I was trying to sort it out, and it looked like it was maybe coming from Google Chrome, which fuck you, Google Chrome. Quit trying to sell me shit. I have no issue spending my money. I don't need your advertisement.
So who do you think is advertising? Like, is it a mailing list that they have you on?
No,
or
it's actually like a
Google
it just
Chrome
pops up on my computer, and I don't know. I've never really tested if it's because typically I leave Chrome open on my personal computer. So I get just random pop-ups, which I thought was maybe a Windows 10 thing because I'm more of a Mac guy, but my PC upstairs is for gaming. So it's like a whole new world for me, and I fucking hate it. And I just kept getting these notifications. And when I built Allie's computer, she didn't have any of that stuff. So I know because I bought a pre-packaged computer that there's a bunch of ad bullshit on it that I should.
It's the worst when computers come with bloatware.
Oh my god, Allie was giving me shit today. I have to restart my computer like every few days because it just sometimes it won't load programs, and it takes so fucking long to restart. And my computer is a year and a half newer than Allie's, and hers runs like the day I built it, and mine is maybe not even 2 years old, and it is such a hunk of shit. I seriously sometimes want to just crush it. And you know how I like to break things when I'm angry, so it takes every ounce of strength in me sometimes, especially when everyone's waiting for me to get on to game. And I'm like, oh, I have to restart my computer. And then it takes 20 minutes.
I have noticed that, and we do make fun of you for that. That's for sure.
Yeah, exactly. Because then I'm restarting, but I can hear Allie shit talking right next to me while I'm just like, come on, computer. Why? Why are you doing this? I hate you PCs. None of my Macs have this issue. But
we should totally kind of dive into the deep web and the dark web.
Yes, tell me about this deep web.
If you've never been there, because it's fascinating.
This is a legit question. Someone asked me the other day of like what is the deep or dark web, and how do you get there? Do you just Google dark web and you're like poof in a whole new world? Like how does it work?
Well, so you can Google, how do I get on the dark web or something like that, and there'll probably be a tutorial that teaches you how to do it. probably you end up on a list or something if you're searching that. I'm not too sure.
Because there's really not many reasons. What are some legitimate reasons? I guess if you like are desperately in need of an organ transplant. Ooh, can I sell a kidney on the dark web?
Oh, for sure. Undoubtedly.
Daddy's getting a new car.
That would be ill-advised.
But
you could do it. You could do it. So let me look this up really quick because I don't want to mislead listeners.
So you're volunteering to be on a list, is what you're saying?
Well, I've already searched how to do it, so I'm on that list. Whoever it is, so I'll bite the bullet for everybody else.
Thank you for sacrificing your internet anonymity for a Jumbled podcast. You're a great man.
You're very welcome, listeners. Okay, so there's two different things: the deep web and the dark web. I just wanted to make sure that I didn't get.
I didn't even know that.
Yeah, so the deep web is just anything that isn't indexed by search engines.
So like tagged if you were to Google, so you can't.
Yeah,
search
it? So when you make a website, you can put a file in the root directory of your website, and it's called robots.txt. And in there, you can turn off crawlers. So basically, when Google sends its spiders, so like search spiders to your website through links, you can tell them to go away. So basically, if someone tries to search keywords that are on your page, it won't be indexed. So no one can ever find it through a search engine. They would need the direct link to your webpage in order to access
complex, I'm assuming.
Oh, it doesn't have to be. Like I can make, gregburlet.ca and turn robots.txt, turn all the crawlers off. And if anybody searched for like keywords on that site or search my name, it wouldn't show up in search results. So that's an example of like the deep web. So the dark web is part of the deep web in that it's not immediately accessible through Google or Ask Jeeves, our favorite search engine.
I wonder if that fucker's still around.
Actually, hold on. AskJeeves.com. That'd be amazing if it's still up. The little butler. It is. They don't have the butler anymore. But yeah, that's fascinating.
I miss the butler.
So the dark web. Okay, so now you need to access the dark web. You can't just go into your Chrome browser or Safari or anything like that and type in a link. So everything on the dark web is suffixed by .onion, and it's called .onion because and it's called the onion router. So that's called Tor. So Tor is, think of it like a technology that gives you anonymity while you're browsing. And it gives you anonymity while you're browsing by pinging, basically sending your requests between a whole bunch of different computers around the world. So if I wanted to access a website or I want to send you a message, everybody that's on Tor, think of it kind of like a P2P network. So kind of like you're torrenting. So you're hopping between one peer, and then that person is acting like a proxy or a router, like a middleman. Basically, that's hot potatoing, taking your request and sending it to another random person around the world. And then they're taking that and sending it to another person and another person and another person. And essentially, it's kind of like the layers of an onion. Because there's so many different people that have touched it and so many different layers. That's why they call it the onion. So all of the links are something.onion. So kind of like the first place that people go when they get on the dark web is the Silk Road. It did get shut down.
Wait, you got to explain what this is first.
No, I'm going to.
Okay, good.
So the Silk Road is basically a marketplace for like anything illicit ever.
So like this is where I'd sell my kidney.
Yeah, you can sell your kidney. It's a place to buy like any kind of drug that you want. So typically, all transactions are done in Bitcoin. And it's done in Bitcoin because it's a universal ledger that is anonymous.
That was the reason why Bitcoin was created, right?
I'm not sure. Like certainly it was adopted by that community, but I don't know. I'm not sure if it was created for that community.
How do you create Bitcoin? I know I'm getting sidetracked. I have so many questions for you. I'm so intrigued right now. But I mean, I understand like the concept of Bitcoin is your computer has to solve complex equations and then you get like a token for doing it, essentially. Is that?
Well, okay. So like the very basis of any sort of cryptocurrency is essentially like a decentralization of transactional records. So the way that we currently keep track of transactions in our society is through banks, right? Mm-hmm. So if I make a debit transaction, it goes through the bank that I'm currently with, and then that's stored in a ledger, and then basically it's stored on my account, and then they deduct the money and blah, 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 right? Same thing with credit cards. It goes through the credit card company, some middlemen, and then then it's posted to my account. So it's a centralized recording of that transaction, whereas Bitcoin is, by the very nature of it, is decentralized. So every single person has a record of transactions that occur, and they're all hashed. And hash is basically just like an anonymous unique ID. You can think of it like that, right? So whatever transaction you're doing, it's assigned some unique value, and it's stored in a universal ledger. And everybody keeps track of these values. So that's kind of like the basis of cryptocurrency, was to take power away from banks. I don't know if it was like a stick it to the man sort of thing, like why it was created, but that's essentially kind of like the main goal of it is, screw banks. Let's let everybody kind of keep track of our transactional records and keep it anonymous.
But how was the first Bitcoin created? Like that's the part that I don't understand.
Well, John, okay, think of it this way. You and I, we can come up with jumbled bucks, right?
Ooh, jumbled bucks. Okay, trademarked.
Yep. So I have 50 jumbled bucks, and you have 52. Zach gets nothing because
he's not here. Fuck
he's
you,
not
Zach.
here. So all right, so we have a currency now.
We can only use with each other.
Yeah, but so too with Bitcoin, right? If you don't have any Bitcoin, and there is not a place that accepts Bitcoin, then it's just as worthless to you as jumbled bucks.
That's fair. Okay.
Right. So now we take our log of our currency, and I have 50 jumbled bucks. You have 50 jumbled bucks. We'll write it down somewhere, and then we can get someone else that wants to buy a service from us. Who knows what that will be? And then we will, other way around. So we'll pay this person, then they get a jumbled buck, and we write that down in our ledger that we gave away a jumbled buck, and now we have a currency, right? Mm-hmm. So I don't know if Bitcoin was created for the community or was just adopted by the community because of the properties of it, right? So basically, if people were to buy, illicit drugs and rocket launchers and stuff like that, and put in their credit card information, anyone can figure out who they are, right? Like they could get their name, they can get their address. So why even use Tor? Like why go through all of that work
just to track your credit card?
Yeah, to anonymize yourself, and then you put in your information, right? So if you are buying stuff on the Silk Road, you're gonna want to set up like a PO box or something like that. Something
which
that
is still traceable.
Yeah. So like, there comes a point where like everything can kind of be traced at the point where you're dealing with tangible things. Like if I want to get my hands on something, someone needs to ship it to me, right? And then, yeah, you're kind of losing a little bit of anonymity. So I've never bought anything off the Silk Road. I've just kind of like looked around.
I'm so intrigued by what the things that are on there. Does it look like an eBay page?
No. Typically, everything on the dark web looks like shit. Like and not like an Angel Fire from the 90s kind of website with a whole bunch of, wacky gifs and stuff like that. Like everything just looks like it's very plain looking. Like it kind of looks like back pages or like Kijiji if you turned off or eBay if you turned off all the style sheets and everything, so it looked like pretty plain. So nothing really looks that great, to be honest. So the Silk Road did get shut down by the FBI. I'm not sure. By the way, the FBI?
No,
or the Silk Road.
Silk Road. Yeah.
The Silk Road. It's a great name, right? It's so when you went to the Silk Road, it was just various people posting stuff that they were selling, so you could buy drugs, like basically any kind of drugs that you want, really. You could do weapons, ammunition, with them being unregistered. Mm-hmm. So they would kind of be like untraceable. That was kind of the thing.
The idea,
yeah. Yeah, and then all the way to rather innocuous stuff like 3D blueprints and stuff like that, where it's not necessarily illegal,
but people just don't want to know that you're selling it, kind of thing.
I don't know. Like
I'm
it could
really
be
interested in what a kidney's going for these days, because I got a tenant in the basement who really has been bugging me recently. Just saying.
Yeah, make a little extra cash. You know. Yeah, and then all the way, and then obviously kind of like the thing with the dark web is like people like illegal pornography, right? Like child pornography and stuff like that, which is obviously like super legal, and people use Tor to anonymize themselves while they like download these images and stuff like that, right?
I mean,
so
I'm not opposed to. I mean, illegal firearm sales, kind of shitty. You want to sell an organ? I think that's cool. Do your thing. You want to buy some drugs? Do your thing. But that's definitely the line where it's kind of fucked up.
So like my mentality of like anything in life is you do you, so long as you're not hurting anyone else, right?
Yeah. I say that all the time. Like, do what makes you happy. Just don't be a dick.
Yeah, totally.
So
I'm totally with that.
Man, this is like a whole new world. I want to try and figure it out, but I know I'll probably just get really annoyed trying to figure it out.
So it's actually okay. So there is a technical way to do it that involves like some setup and some code and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. People, since Firefox is open source, meaning that you can get the source code and stuff like that. Someone took that source code, or a group of people, and made it
a dark web Firefox.
Yeah, so you download this Firefox, and it has Tor in Firefox. So you can also in this Firefox browser, that's kind of been retrofitted, is you can go to regular websites but through Tor, so you'll be completely anonymized, and then you can also go to .onion links as well. So you can go to the Silk Road.
It sounds like a good way to give your computer some serious infections.
No, I don't think so. Yeah, I don't think you're any more vulnerable than normal. If anything, you're kind of more protected because your stuff is hopping through so many different anonymized endpoints, right? Mm-hmm. But that being said, like, you can still get yourself into a lot of trouble on the dark web, right?
Like, just accidentally. Like, realistically, any rabbit holes you go down on YouTube, you're probably not going to end up in prison.
No.
But when you're in this other area, there's clearly some risk to stumble upon some stuff that you weren't intending to stumble across, which then puts you on another list.
Stuff. So stuff is pretty well marked. Like you kind of know if you're getting into an area where you don't want to be, right? And then you just don't go there. So it's not like you're going to come across an
like
image
randomly, like, oh
that,
my god,
like I didn't mean to see that. It's like, well, you did because you clicked on it, right?
It's clearly titled.
But yeah, so like anything, like the last time that I was on the Silk Road before it got shut down, there was a hitman. He's like, I'll kill anyone you want. $4,000. That's it.
What?
That's what a human life costs to this person. $4,000, and then it was something like $1,500. It was all in US if you wanted a picture, because as he stated, a picture is more risky because you have evidence, right?
Yeah.
I couldn't believe that. I'm like $4,000. It's insane. Like it probably wouldn't be a good job.
It makes me think about the movie Hitman, and that was super inflated.
Like the cost of assassinating someone, or
the video game and the movies, you're like a millionaire, or like John Wick, for example.
Yeah, but in those video games, you're kind of taking down high profile targets, right?
That's true too.
Yeah, like this would be like, you don't like your elementary school teacher? I can whack her, sure.
I can whack her. God, that is so weird.
And this guy isn't using gloves or anything like that.
That intrigues me so much, because I just imagine in today's day and age, how can you truly get away with murder? Like I just feel like you can't.
Yeah, so I've been listening to this Canadian true crime podcast lately.
Ooh.
And which is actually kind of ironically voiced by an Aussie. So she has an Aussie accent talking about Canadian serial killers and stuff like that.
You can shout out this podcast because I want to know the name, and
I think it's called hold on, let me make sure I got it. I think it's called Canadian True Crime Podcast.
What a complicated title.
Yeah, it's called Canadian True Crime by Christy Lee.
Right.
And it goes through like kind of some horrific ones, some really interesting ones. I'm listening to the Robert Pickton. It's a 6-parter. Yeah. The guy who like fed prostitutes to his pigs.
Yeah.
It's like super interesting. So anyways, it's kind of crazy because she goes through the whole investigative stage, right? And it's crazy how much footage that they have in the city. They're like, and then the cops picked up security footage from across the street facing this way, and then the car went off, and then they traced it on this interstate, or not interstate, we don't have interstates in Canada, but traced it across this highway, and then they picked him up at this, and it's crazy. Like, you're totally right. Like, if you're in any sort of urban setting,
there's no way.
Yeah. There's just so many security cameras, and people, because security cameras have become so cheap that they're accessible to the general population. And even if you go in suburbs in Edmonton, Calgary, Toronto, Vancouver, like any sort of major urban center, suburbs will have like video cameras.
Doorbell cameras.
Yeah, doorbell cameras, all that kind of stuff, right?
It makes you wonder, is this guy legit? How much money do you think he's potentially made? Or is this literally just the police fishing for...
Yeah, so there are a lot of people that fish on there, like FBI agents, stuff like that. So there's chat rooms. So FBI agents will pose as
I miss chat rooms.
So they'll pose as 12-year-old girls and try and get people to like come to them, and just like snag pedophiles and stuff like that.
Do you ever wonder how many middle-aged men you talk to as a young teen in chat rooms, thinking that it was 18-year-old female from California, because that was always the response?
Well, usually younger. You'd be like, ASL 14F Cali.
Yeah. Why is it always California?
I have no
Cali
idea.
girls, man. There's something about them.
I don't know. So almost exclusively men.
California.
Almost exclusively, 100%, John.
Oh man, I feel so used. I remember being in junior high and just staying up till stupid hours in chat rooms, just randomly talking to people. ASL. For our more senior listeners, that stands for age, sex, location, and it was like the first question you would ask when someone would DM you. Although it wasn't DM'd, it was like PM'd, private message.
Yeah, PM'd, I guess. Yeah.
God, those are the good old days, man. Just being a troll in there, like the beginning of trolling, just pissing people off.
Trolling really wasn't a thing back then, though. Like
well,
it really wasn't.
We just didn't know what it was. You were just like being an asshole to be an asshole, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah, I guess that's the definition of trolling, I guess, right?
Yeah. It didn't have a title.
Yeah.
Yet, someone sent me some funny Cyber Monday memes, and it made me think about those days. And I was like, man, 15 years ago, maybe more, 18, 20 years ago, Cyber Monday had a completely different meaning than it does now.
What did Cyber Monday used to be?
Cybering was like internet sex. And
cybering. Yeah.
Yeah. And I don't know why I thought of that, but I was just like, huh.
Was it only done on a Monday?
Well, you could have done like a celebration day. I don't know. I just meant cybering in general.
Oh.
Which is also a really weird term for let's type sex.
Yeah, and think about it now, John. Now there's like remote control vibrators that you can control with your partner
from anywhere
in the world.
Insane.
You can be like 12-hour time zone difference, diddling your girlfriend with a Wii vibe. It's crazy.
Oh man!
Madness.
So our friend group here are doing a Secret Santa. And I won't say who I have, but I've been really trying to find a funny but meaningful gift. And I was like, I Googled a bunch of like nerdy Secret Santa ideas and funny Secret Santa ideas. And I went down a little bit of a Amazon rabbit hole, and it had friendship bracelets that connected Bluetooth to your phone, like to your phone number.
Yeah.
And that you could rub your friendship bracelet and it would vibrate on your other friend. And I was just, that's exactly what I thought.
Oh my God. Okay, so that's almost exclusively being used as a vibrator. And so that reminds me of like when you're pretty young.
Because the bracelet was really small, like maybe like about the size of a golf ball.
Yeah. So you remember when you were really young and you go into Spencer's? I don't know if this store exists outside of Canada, but Spencer's is this store where you can just buy just the gamut of shit you don't need.
Anything from dragon statues to bongs to flags to like dildos.
Yeah.
It was a weird store that just anyone could walk into.
Yeah. There was a time where they sold drugs in there. Before. Oh, yeah. But before it was classified as like
thing? Or was that like an urban legend when we were kids? Because I remember that people being like, yeah, you can buy weed at Spencer's. Be like, what? No, you can't.
Yeah.
But someone always said they got it from Spencer's.
Yeah.
I never did.
Yeah, I never got it either. Okay, so anyways, when you go into the sex toy area of Spencer's and you're like 15 years old or something like that, so they sell vibrators there, but they're marketed as head massagers.
Yes,
and
that's right.
You're like, okay, no one is using this as a head massager. This is just a straight up vibrator.
I really need this waterproof head massager for when I shower. That is exactly what I need.
Do you think there was some dolt that bought that from Spencer's and was like,
gave it to his wife? Here's his head massager.
Yeah, I don't think anyone used that as marketed.
Oh man, I miss that store.
It exists. Was one thing. Let's go next time you're in town.
Is it still in Northwood Mall? That's the one I remember.
No, that one was San Francisco's.
Oh
Yeah, and that's also another store. It's like
That's the
exactly
one I
like
was
Johnny
thinking of.
described, like bongs and disco balls, like just
That's
stuff
the
you
one I
don't
was
need,
thinking
right?
about,
Spencer's was in Kingsway,
yeah, I remember Spencer.
and
A little
Spencer's
bit-
is now in
little bit
Londonderry Mall.
less. Yes, a little bit higher class, marginally higher class than San Francisco.
Yeah, I would say so. Yeah.
I always have these weird memory, like this fond. I don't know if I should say fond, but a memory, of when I was a little kid, and my nights with my dad were like Tuesdays and Thursdays nights, and we would typically go to the mall, and we would get like
Some head massagers.
some head massagers with my dad. No, fuck. No, we would
Look,
we would
Dad.
get like mall food, right? We'd go to Northwood Mall for the longest time, and we would get some kind of fast food in the mall, and then we'd go to the shitty arcade and we'd play Buck Hunter.
That's such an Alberta thing to do.
It is such an Alberta thing. Or we would play some kind of video game. There was Buck Hunter. There was a NASCAR race car game that I fucking loved. And then we would, shop around, and we'd always go to San Francisco, and I would always be like, ha, 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 ha. Look at this head massager.
Yeah, there's
My
there's
dad
so many things.
just like, oh, you fucking ass.
I can totally see your dad saying that.
Oh yeah, 100%. Oh man, that mall. I miss like true arcades. Like, I know
they're
they did-
dying.
They
So
really are.
you remember Palladium in West
Yeah.
Edmonton Mall? West Edmonton Mall, to all of our American and other listeners, one of the largest malls in the world. I think malls in Dubai have now beaten it. I think that there's
Everything in
bigger
Dubai
ones.
is bigger now.
Yeah. So anyways, there was this massive arcade.
Mall of America is its sister mall for our American friends who everyone in America knows what Mall of America is. And it's owned by the same people, I believe.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, interesting. So Palladium was a 2-floor massive arcade. It went out of business because
Pretty quickly.
Um,
Didn't it?
so the reason that I heard why they went out of business is because they couldn't stomach the electricity costs of everything.
Oh,
Isn't that
I think
insane?
I remember hearing that too. Yeah.
Like, they had so many machines, and the amount of money that they were charging couldn't beat the overhead of powering all these stupid arcade machines. Isn't that insane? And as a business owner, like,
You think you'd factor that in.
you would think that you would factor it in, but you kind of think like, okay, well, I'm going to buy these machines. That's my cost, right? I'm going to pay the lease for the area, which is probably a lot of money because it was a big space, right?
It was a big space.
And then I'm going to charge this amount per credit for a game. Multiply that by how many people I think that I have, and you're like, oh my god, I'm going to be rich. Like that's probably like the
failing
business
plans
model,
with
right?
I'm going to pay some twerps $6 an hour to swipe cards and take money. And
Yeah. Like I could
also
see
think
how
the
it would be
timing
overlooked.
of that. The timing of that was also really poor because you could tell that arcades were starting to die.
Yeah.
As internet became stronger and better, and like online gaming became more of a thing, and kids were staying in to play video games.
Yeah.
Console gaming exploded, and the idea was, there were some decent sized there were 2 decent sized arcades in West Edmonton Mall for a while. I remember there's one in the food court.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then it was like, this model is dying, so what do we got to do? Make it even bigger and more expensive, so these little shitheads who barely can afford to play in the arcade now will come and spend more money, but it's this cool thing.
John,
I remember that.
You sound like Tim Cook, the CEO of Apple. No one can afford this shit. Let's make it bigger. Let's make it more expensive.
So they want it even more.
So they want it. That's incredible. That's.
Oh man, I'm
good.
such an Apple fanboy. I'm very clear when people are about like, why do you have an iPhone? And it's not because I think it's better. It's literally because I have a stupid brain. It's the only phone I know at this point. And that's the truth.
That's fine. It takes time to learn new interfaces and new ways of interacting,
especially
right?
with how complex. Yeah, I'm an old man now, Greg.
Yeah.
What do you think about the Cineplex push for basically Palladium 2.0, which is how like Cineplex movie theaters had dinky arcades that were good. Like, to me, that made sense when you're waiting for your movie. You have to go early or whatever. You're making an afternoon of it. You spend $5 fucking around in an arcade. To now they have what are they called? Something box, I think. They're like the adult arcades. It's just another version of the arcade, but it's owned by Cineplex, and they have like a bar and a restaurant in it. Have you heard of those? There's one in.
Is it like the VIP, whatever it is, where you can order drinks and all that kind of stuff?
Not the VIP like theater. It's not a theater. It's just a big arcade owned by. Fuck, it's gonna drive me. I have to Google it. It's the exact same idea. Of,
yeah. And I know what you're talking about. I've been there before. There's one massive one in Edmonton. So they have they used to have axe throwing in there.
The rec room.
Yeah, totally. So they had axe throwing in there, and then I think that they had VR headsets in there where you could go shoot zombies and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, it looked really cool. So exact same concept of Palladium. Rec Room just took it even further stupid to let's have all these awesome things. And I remember before they opened one in Calgary, there was a bunch of advertisements. I was like, okay, like nostalgic. I miss arcades. It was cool. There were games you could get tickets. And but then they also had VR and like this cool augmented reality rock climbing wall and all this shit. And I was like, all right, cool. So I go in and I drop $50 on this like swipe bracelet thing that you use to access. And then I go to like, I want to do this batting cage. Like, oh no, this is extra. I'm like, what?
Yeah. Well, same with the VR area.
Yeah. So then I go to VR and they're like, no, this is also extra. I was like, what the fuck do I get with this $50 bracelet? And they're like, oh, you can play skee ball.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
Cool.
You can throw some balls at some clown heads. There you go, buddy.
Yeah. There was a beer pong arcade game, which I found quite hilarious and also kind of weird. Like, who wants to play that? And I don't think they're doing that well, honestly. The food was decent, but interesting concept, poor execution.
I think they have a live venue in there too.
Yeah, some of them do. Yeah.
We went to an augmented reality Star Wars exhibit there. It was actually pretty damn cool. Like, I think it was my coolest interaction with VR that I've had to date. So like the only other time I've played VR has been with PlayStation and stuff like that.
Which is pretty cool.
It's cool. There's some cool experiences that you can have with that. And I have a Google Cardboard as well. Though it makes me sick because the frame rates it's like right up to your face. So this Star Wars thing that they had, you put on the VR set, you have a haptic suit that you put on over your chest.
Is that the thing that like vibrates or pushes or whatever?
Yeah. So it'll vibrate when you get hit. And you walk through, so all of the cables go up to the ceiling and you walk through a real environment, but everything in your VR is mapped to that real environment. So everything was Star Wars themed. You're all stormtroopers. So when you go and look at your buddy, so it was 4 of us that did it. When you go turn sideways and look at your friend, they're a stormtrooper. And
that's awesome.
You pick up real weapons, like not real weapons, of course, but like fake weapons, blasters. And you look at them, and they're like actual blasters. And you can pull the trigger. They shoot in the world, and when you get hit, you get vibrated. There was parts where so you're in the magma world from Star Wars, where Darth Vader, his homeworld. God, my Star Wars geography is failing me.
Tisk. That's okay.
I can't remember the name of it. Anyways, so you go out onto this area above the lava, and you have to step onto this like floating platform over the lava, and they actually heat up the room and had like flames shoot at you, and you're like, holy shit, It was crazy.
How much was this, and can I do it now?
I'm not sure if they still have it, and I think it was like, I don't know, like $30. It was pretty accessible.
I would pay $30 for that.
It was really cool. It was just
how long
like
were you in there for?
Maybe like 7 minutes, something like that.
Ooh, $30 for 7 minutes is a little steep, but I'd probably give it a go.
Honestly, like
that sounds pretty cool.
It was novel enough where it was worth it. Like I thought like it was pretty cool. It was nothing that I had experienced before. Which I'm down for paying money for, right? Like, I thought that was pretty cool.
I'm really tired of people trying to take advantage of my nostalgia. And that is like the current thing, right? Is everything, let's throw back to when you were a kid and you'll pay for it. And I have in the past, and I'm starting to say fuck you to that.
Well, look at Disney right now. Every single movie that they're releasing is like a remake of something that you loved when you were a child. Right. And
I don't think any of those movies are actually that good. I just think it's people wanting them to be good because of their memories.
Well, I think like I never saw Toy Story 4. I think they're at something like
didn't
that.
Watch that one either.
Like I heard it was pretty good, but like I can't say.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah.
So full circle.
Yeah.
Back to phones. Did you see that there's a new Motorola Razr coming out?
No, I didn't, and
it's a flip phone.
Okay.
The screen is a clamshell. And the engineering behind it is fucking incredible, in my opinion, that you can have this screen.
Is it two screens? Or it's a single...
It's like... Well, I think the way I looked at it, Ali showed me a video, and truthfully, I was driving to Regina at the time when she saw it, and she like played this video, and I was kind of watching it out of my peripheral while I was driving. Don't fault me. I was being safe. I wasn't really paying attention. But she was mesmerized by it. And the way she was describing it to me, it was kind of this weird, I'm driving and I have this screen like kind of in my far corner periph while I'm looking forward. And Allie's giving me like closed captioning what's going on, play-by-play. And the way she described it is that it's one screen that bends and that you can snap it closed. And I know that was like the big push for the Razrs and the Crazers. Like, when you hung up on someone, you just like slam that bitch and just had that.
It was cathartic.
Like, that sound, you know? And even now thinking about that sound, I can hear it. I can't replicate it, but I can hear it and I'm just like, oh, I love that. And I remember just sitting like flicking my phone open and then closing it. Flicking it, like even
I remember I used to like on my old flip phone, I used to take the antenna and spin it really fast, and then the flip part would open up as it's spinning and then close as it did the 360. God, yeah. You did that too? All
the tricks you could do with your phone, just like, and the beauty of that was if you dropped that thing, didn't fucking matter.
Yeah, they
never broke. They never broke.
Yeah. Well, I think the screen technology's changed because now everything is like really glass, right? Like if you drop it, it's super glass. It's pretty done.
I have traditionally been a no case guy on my phones, and I recently upgraded to iPhone 11 Pro.
Yeah.
And I bought a case because I'm fucking terrified of this thing. And I dropped it yesterday, and I was just like, oh no. And I picked it up and it was okay, thankfully. So case is doing its job.
Do you have one of those glass screen protectors that go over top?
No,
of
it? I
hate those.
I hate screen protectors.
Yeah.
There's a one of my colleagues at work. She's about our age. She has one of those screen protectors that it was like the real glass screen protector.
Yeah, I have one of those on mine.
It's like cracked, but it's cracked. And I was like, why do you have that?
Yeah, just take it off.
It saves my screen from cracking. I was like, yeah, but it
is cracked.
Horrible. Just take it off. Well, then my screen will break. But your screen's already broken.
Yeah.
And like you can get a new screen pretty cheap.
It gives you a second chance. Like just go get, if she's worried about that, just go get another screen protector. It's like $20.
It drives me nuts because she'll also complain about how like it's not reading her finger. I'm like, then take your fucking screen protector off.
Okay, well that's a little absurd. Yeah, I gotta say.
And I ran an iPhone 10 for almost 2 years and never used a case. Well, I shouldn't say never. I had a battery pack case for a while, but I never had a screen protector. And when the phone's off, you can see some scratches on the screen. But when the thing's on, I never saw them. So I'm not that paranoid about scratches on my screen. Obviously, I don't want it to break. I learned that iPhone 10s are water resistant.
Yeah, I think I remember them advertising that. Like they were doing underwater pictures or something like that. Only to a certain depth, though.
Yeah. Well, I learned that when my iPhone 10 fell into the toilet.
Well done, John. Well done.
It was in my pants pocket,
yeah,
like my front pants pocket, and I was wearing dress pants that were a little bit tight, showing off the booty, you know. Yeah. And the pockets were shallow, and finished doing my business, and went to pull up my pants, and I heard this, like, I could feel it slip out.
Oh no!
And it was like slow motion, where I was like, no, and I like go to catch it and push it off the stall wall, and then it rebounds like Scottie Pippen shooting a free throw right into the toilet.
Screen's okay though, right? Unflushed. Oh no! It's water resistant, but is it feces resistant?
And I had this moment where I was just like, fuck, and pull it out. Luckily, it was hovering on the top, mostly. It had some good structural support. I like pull the toilet paper roll, like just like I'm spinning the wheel of fortune, and I get this massive ball of toilet paper, and I'm like trying to pull off all the water and particles off, and I like throw it into the bathroom sink, and I wash it with, like, at this point I'm like, this phone is probably fucked, so who cares? And then I throw it in the bathroom sink, and I just dump soap on it, and I'm like scrubbing it, and like oh my god, turn it off and try and clean it, and then I'm like drying it out, and then I'm like Googling, oh, do I need to get like the old bag of rice or whatever? And then everyone was like, oh yeah, iPhone 10 is water resistant up to 10 meters or something.
You think like, so every company does like quality assurance, right, before they release like their new thing, except for maybe Elon Musk and his Cybertruck.
Poor Cybertruck. Although he did sell like 200,000 units or something stupid like that.
His pre-sales were 200K units, not even 200,000.
Yeah, units.
Yeah, that's pretty nuts. So anyways, do you think that that Apple's quality assurance for these phones was like actually dropping them into shitters?
No, but I should probably email Apple and say, yo, it might have been the structural integrity of my turd, but the phone lasted, and I had no problems. I thought for sure I'd have problems. Washed it, disinfected it, no problems.
Honestly, John, you should email Cook. Email the CEO of Apple. So that's kind of been like the CEO of Apple's thing.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So if you look on, like, just Google Tim Cook's email, you can find it. It's like.
Do you think it's actually his email?
It is.
Like a monitored email.
So I don't think that he reads all of them, but he does read some of them periodically. Mm-hmm. And he has been known to respond to people on that email address.
I'm gonna email him tomorrow.
It's something like
I'm gonna find this email, and I'm gonna email him tomorrow and share this story and talk about how impressed I am with Apple. That being said, I sold that phone roughly 2 weeks later, and I did post on my Facebook if anyone was looking for an iPhone 10. I had a few people interested, and I was like, I don't think I want to sell you this phone, so I just like ignored everyone who said they were interested and sold it on Kijiji to some dude.
You like selling personal effects with personal excrements on it, don't you? Because I seem to remember buying your old Honda off you for $500 with some urine in the wheel wells. And that is exactly what you said. You're like, Greg, I don't know if I want to sell this to you.
Yeah. I was so terrified. My biggest fear, like, I hate selling, especially at the time when we were kids. Like, $500 was a lot of money back then.
Yeah.
You know? And I was so terrified, and that, like, I ran that car through the ringer. Like, it had seen some shit, as you know.
Yeah.
And I was terrified that I would sell you this car and then something super bad would happen and that it would like potentially impact our friendship. And I, looking back now, I think our friendship was strong enough that we would have gotten through that. Yeah. But like, that's a legitimate
not if I burned alive in the interior of this car, John.
Well, there's also that. That would have put a really traumatic end to our friendship. But you like, I was so proud of you. Like, you fixed that thing up.
I did.
It was nicer than the day I bought it, and you had that thing for quite some time.
I love that. Was seriously my favorite car. I look back on that car with such nostalgia and like almost like a romanticism. It's like, oh, it's my first car. It's like the first thing that's like a big purchase that's mine.
Yeah.
And I remember like fixing up the interior and putting subwoofers in it and like fixing up the gear shift. I just learned so much on it. It was fantastic. I loved it. It was so much fun. Mm-hmm. And had a different color hood on it. And
it was black.
Yeah, black hood, white car.
That's because I had to replace it.
Yeah, probably from pick and pull or something like that.
No, I rear-ended a lady who cut me off, and it was counted as an at fault for me because I technically rear-ended her, even though I had a witness.
Yeah,
like she cut me off, and I slammed on the brakes. Like she was in the far right lane. I don't know. This is like 2004, and we all know my concussion history. So I remember I was driving and she like came across 2 lanes and I was on 82nd Street and she like slammed on her brakes to try and get over left and I hit my brakes and I still rear-ended her. Not that bad.
So like, really it was her fault.
It was her fault, but insurance was like, well, you rear-ended her, so it's automatic your fault.
Yeah.
I remember I was so pissed because I had to borrow money from my parents to pay for her car, so we didn't go through insurance because otherwise I'd been just fucked. So I had to replace the hood and some little things. But yeah, you took that car so much further, and I remember you buying. You're like, I just need it for like a few months, a year or so, like no problem. And like you had it for.
I had it for I think 2 years.
Yeah,
it was fantastic. It was so good.
That was a good car. That was a fun car.
It was really good. And then I sold it to Mike Dillon.
How much did you sell it to him
$1,000.
Oh my god, beauty. Oh man,
but there's also inflation.
Inflation. Well, you put a lot of it was.
I actually
in good shape.
I put a lot of work. Like I took apart like a lot of the engine block and like scrubbed it. Like it was actually in immaculate shape after.
Yeah, it was like a brand new car. Yeah. I think I bought that car for. I remember I bought it in like Sherwood Park, and I think the guy had it listed for like $2,500, and I got him down to like 18 because it was like burning some oil, and I was like being nitpicky about some stuff, and he was just like, yeah, get rid of it, I don't care. So I mean,
it's pretty good.
And then I crashed it, you fixed it, and then sold it. So yeah, good. I wonder where that car is these days. I
wonder. Be
Probably
pretty easy to.
Dead.
No, it's a Honda. It's still moving. I guarantee it. 1990 Civic DX hatchback. That thing is still kicking.
Manual with some sick exhaust.
Oh yeah, yeah. That thing. My parents could hear
fart can.
A fart can. It's just a giant crop duster.
Oh man, that thing was so much fun to. I remember that car feeling so fast when I was a kid. Like
it was like a little go-kart, and I remember just driving and feeling so low to the ground. As I'm turning,
handling was good.
The only thing was that it didn't have power steering.
You got an arm workout.
You really did. You really did.
Old Willow arms with a good arm.
A little bit of background. I was quite a scrawny teenager, and my friends used to call me Willow Arms.
Old Willow arms.
Like you know that Harry Potter tree, the Whomping Willow. Like that was me.
I with a little bit less womp.
That's right. More like a wimp. The Wimping Willow.
Oh man, Allie. So Allie and I, every once in a while, we go through a thing where we try and have like a snuggle day or a snuggle weekend.
Okay.
And we did it a few months ago, and we watched all of the extended cuts of Lord of the Rings.
Very
basically in one weekend. It was a fucking haul, but it was awesome. And we just snuggle the dogs, order food. I like give up on the diet, eat literally everything I can see. And then this past Sunday, Allie was like, "Hey, let's, we've been really busy. Like, let's do a snuggle day and let's do Harry Potter." So we watched.
That's a commitment. There's a lot of movies there.
Well, we watched 3 and a bit of the Harry Potters, and it's really cool to watch those movies again, and also really weird to think the first one came out in like 2002.
Was it that old?
I think it was 2002. But like seeing things like the Whomping Willow came up and it made me think of you, and I was like,
they're good movies. I think
they honestly
I think
are.
they're
And there's cool things that I see now as an adult that I didn't really see as a kid, because I read the books, the first 4. I think I read the first 4 up to Goblet of Fire.
Yeah.
And then I was like, oh, I don't want to read these because I'm a dumbass. And then I watched the movies, but kind of like I remember going to see them with like my mom and my little sister. Like it was like a family thing, and I was still kind of being like a snotty teenager. Like, I don't want to see a stupid movie. Mm-hmm. But now I watch them. There's just little things that's cool. Like Hogwarts campus changes in every movie, at least the first 3 that I've watched. And like Allie pointed it out, and I was like, oh,
what changes about it?
Just the landscape where what's the caretaker's name?
Hagrid.
That big guy, Hagrid, like where his house is, just like a bunch of shit like that, just like little weird magical details and stuff. And these are pretty fucking good movies. I'm excited to keep going, to be honest.
They're really fun. I like them. I remember in language arts class in junior high, we read Harry Potter, and then we went to the movie because it just came out, and we did we had to write a compare and contrast essay on the differences between the book and the movie. And in LA, when you basically just make up a whole bunch of shit, like critical think stuff that isn't there.
That's how I got through high school.
That's how I'm getting through life.
Fake it till you make it, baby.
Yeah, so that was pretty cool. That we actually like in school went to go see Harry Potter. I thought that was pretty cool.
That is pretty sweet. That's like modernizing education to fit the current student culture.
Yeah.
And I can appreciate that. Thinking about that, and teachers, and obviously some of our close friends have become teachers, and hearing the amount of effort they put into lesson planning and how they try and keep it relevant, and I just have so much more of appreciation for the effort my teachers put that I was probably a snothead to.
Yeah.
So you know what? Good on you, all you teachers, for doing your best. I appreciate you.
Yeah, because you really impact everyone's life. Like just thinking back to some of the teachers that I had.
Mr. Klimper.
I was just going to say Mr. Klimper.
I will never forget. I bet you studyphysics.ca is still up. I'm going to check.
So Mr. Klimper was just an inspirational, really outgoing, just cared about everyone and them learning science.
It's the same fucking website.
Is it?
This is incredible. I'm going to go back and take Physics 30 again.
I saw him at, I think him and his kid, at some like convention that was going on at the convention center. And I went up to him and I said, "Hey, Mr. Klimperg, you probably don't remember me. I was in your grade 12 physics class. I just want to say thank you for getting me interested in science, because that was totally you. And now I have a career path in it, and just thanks for making it fun and exciting." And he was just like taken aback, and he's like, thanks for coming up to me. Like he was kind of just like, well, I didn't expect that.
Yeah. That's really sweet. I actually emailed him when I graduated university and kind of said the same thing, because like in high school I was working in trades and I had no desire to go to university. Like it was never a thought process. And it actually took quite a bit of work to me to get into university because I fucked around so much in high school. I bailed on the Physics 30 diploma exam because I thought I was failing it and was like, well, there's no point in taking this test, so I'm going to go work and make some, make my $20.
Yeah.
And then he gave me so much shit. He's like, why did you not show up to the test? You had a 70%, you dumbass. So I accidentally failed Physics 30 because I'm an idiot.
I didn't know that.
And my mom's going to hear this and be really pissed. So when I decided to go to university, like I went to university 2 years after high school, I had to like get my transcripts from high school and like had to get a recommendation letter from a couple of profs saying that like I had potential and like all this shit. And then I got to university and was an honors student because I learned that I actually cared about school. And when I graduated, because I had taken science classes in university, and I always remembered Klintberg, like his teaching style, just like, even though I did not care about physics, he made it fun.
You did.
And I liked it for that. And I sent him an email basically saying the same thing. Like, I know I was a shit in high school and I'm sorry, but I really appreciated, like, you made a difference in my life, and now I've gone to university and whatever. And he like sent me a quick email back of like, I'm glad to hear everything's going well. And
that has to be so impactful. I don't think that there's many careers where you get that level of like longitudinal, like you can see how you're impacting people. I guess like social workers would get that. I don't know, like I'm thinking in my career path, like when if I was working at some tech company, when when am I then experience something like that,
Well, I mean, I think you'll have employees that at some point will reach out to you and say, "Hey, thanks for
could be
being a good mentor."
Could be.
I had an experience just very much like that. I guess in November, not this month because we're in December now, and that was like one of my first moments where I was like, "Oh, maybe I am making a difference. Maybe I am not a bad person."
Well, I certainly think you're a good person, John.
Oh, I appreciate that. But it's like you said, though, you never really think about it from like definitely your line of work is probably more complex. But to have like an employee come back and say, "Hey, I appreciate your leadership style and I see what you're doing and it's really making a difference to me." So that'll happen, Greg. I'm sure that'll happen.
Well, yeah, that would be nice. But I was thinking like, yeah,
you're
like
going to create something that's going to solve a major problem with your big old brain. You're not going to like. That's my prediction.
I still think I'm gonna be your chauffeur driver.
I'm looking forward to it.
That's very kind, John. I still think as a teacher, you have more opportunity to provide
100%.
impact to like a broad, deep
definitely.
rooting impact. Because they're young and you're still kind of like forming them, right? Like I think it's a really noble profession, and especially in like the States. Well, even in Canada, like I don't know if they're paid according to their value, right?
Oh, definitely not. I think teachers are very undervalued, unfortunately. Yeah. But it does make me wonder, though. Like I remember being a kid and having some young teachers, and now I know what like young teachers are actually doing on the weekends, and I was like, teachers are people too,
Yep.
But we should probably wrap up because we've been going into some extra time, which is great. Thank you so much for coming on the podcast. I think the moral of the story of this one is just be appreciative of the people around you.
Yeah. 100%. That's a really good closing thought, John. I like that. Thank you. Go explore the deep dark web. Everybody.
Hey, everyone wants to be on a list somewhere, right? That's maybe not the list you want, but it's a list.
That's right, and you're on it.
and what you go to like shitty work conventions or whatever, and they're like, "Let's play an icebreaker," and it's like 2 truths, 1 lie. I'm gonna use that as one of my truths or lies. I don't know yet if I can figure out how to get on. Be like, I've been on the dark web. How many people can say that?
Yeah. Like, truth, I could find someone to kill you for $4,000.
$4,000.
$5,500 if I want proof.
If I want a disgusting picture of your lifeless body to trace back to me to end up in prison, I gotta pay an extra $1,500 for that direct line to prison, bud. Oh, what a fucking world we live in. Anyways, we're going to cut it here. I'm going to leave it to you, Zach, to do our outro because I always butcher it. But thank you so much for coming back on, Greg, and sharing some knowledge. We got down some pretty interesting paths, and I'm pretty stoked on that.
Yeah, thanks for having me again. Really appreciate it. It's always fun.
Anytime. All right, take care, guys, and make sure you check us out on all platforms, like and give us a review on iTunes, and I'm going to throw a pitch out for Fredible, even though Greg hates when I do it. Check out Fredible. It's an awesome app that I use and that I'm trying to use with my sister to get back into writing music, so thank you for supporting that musical endeavor, Greg.
Awesome.
Anyways, take care, guys, and we'll see you next week.
All right, here comes good old Zach to save the day. Hope you guys enjoyed that episode of Jumbled. From what I heard, and I only briefly scanned through it, but it sounds like Jonny and Greg had a great time, and I hope you guys had a great time listening to them. Again, sorry for all the delays and all the setbacks and whatnot that we've been going through the past couple months, but hey, you know what? We're getting back on trail. So actually, Jonny and I should be getting together this coming weekend for release next week. Want to get back on a regular schedule with the podcast, and hope you guys are looking forward to that. If you guys enjoyed what you heard, please make sure to subscribe, and also please make sure to tell all your friends about this podcast. Tell them that we have some really great stuff going on, even if you gotta lie a little bit. Even if you feel like you're lying a little bit, just bring them on over, because, you know, it's worth it. We're worth it. If you guys would please head over to iTunes, leave us a rating and review. 5-star rating would be preferred, but hey, if we're doing an awful job, I guess we deserve it. Let us know. Head over to audibletrial.com/jumbled and get your free 30-day trial and a free audiobook. Hey, it's on us, guys. They've got over 180,000 titles. So pick something and let us know what you're listening to. We're really looking forward to hearing from you. And head over to patreon.com/jumbled and pay $500 and get us an address. That's still something that we're trying to get some poor bastard to do. But you know what? Daddy's got to pay his mortgage, and you know, I am all about the path of least resistance, right? So, or you know, whatever I got to do to make this easier on myself, I'm willing to do it. And if that means selling my body, you know, because that's pretty much what I'm doing. Willing to do that. I will sell my soul also. That's not a tier, but that might be a tier. Look forward to that maybe soon. And yeah, check us out on all social media at Jumbled Podcast. Send any emails to jumbledpodcast@gmail.com or johnny.jumbled@gmail.com. Guys, we immensely appreciate all the support and that you guys return each and every week. You know, even when we're not here, we do appreciate you guys sticking around. We will see you guys next week for a brand new episode of Jumbled, your favorite podcast about nothing. See you later.
That was a kick-ass amount of fun, John. I just love podcasting. It's so fun.